Hi. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Wisdom Series with Dr. Jen Chen. Today's topic is going to be something that's near and dear to my heart. It is what I would probably consider a tool of some sort, and it has actually been very useful, and I've had a lot of success in the past many years that I've been using this tool to actually help me maneuver through difficult situations, as well as I've used it plenty of times when counseling and actually helping my clients and my patients through some of their struggles. And it is nonetheless perspective. Now, perspective, as I've boiled it down to a very simple definition, is a lens by which we look at the world around us. And it is definitely something that if somebody points out a different way of looking at things, perhaps the way we respond to the original situation could change. And in turn, because of our responses changing, it might actually help the other person as well as ourselves understand the situation at hand without getting too emotional or be in the negative emotional state. So what I wanted to start off with is to give you a little example. I wanted to describe to you from a perspective of my own personal experience with car accidents. It is a little bit surprising, but whenever I share that I've been in 7 car accidents in total in my life, and I'm only 40 at the moment, so 7 car accidents is, I'd say, probably a big handful. So to kind of give you a little bit of a sort of breakdown, I've had 6 rear enders. And the first one happened when I was 22 down in California while I was actually probably in the first quarter of my chiropractic schooling. And we were stopped at a red light, which is often what happens in rear enders, unfortunately, is that the person being hit is usually stopped at a red light and pretty much gets, boom, jammed from the back of the car. And interestingly enough, I had never been in a car accident before then, and I was obviously in a lot of shock. But what I didn't realize was a lot of the symptoms and the side effects from that collision at even the age of 22, when you should be pretty strong and pretty resilient to a lot of these injuries. I actually didn't do too hot. So I remember being extremely angry at the idiot who didn't see our car, didn't slam on his brakes, didn't brake, And so it was really frustrating at that point in time. But because of my background, dealing with chronic pain, and I had a lot of issues that were re-triggered because of that car accident, I was really frustrated and really disappointed because I had finally made it through a few years of peace with my health, and here I am in a new predicament. And so I remember not being able to focus in class. I wasn't able to actually make it to a lot of the labs. I was sitting out in a lot of the practical stuff because I was a car accident patient. And, it is not safe for any of my classmates to actually work on me, and not even our student interns who we were paired with at the time. And so it was actually very challenging at the time because I lost out on a lot of learning. And I remember it took me about 6 months to get kind of back on my feet, and a total of about a year before I could actually fully get back into all the labs and catch up on all the things that I missed. So I was pretty darn pissed at this incident. But, looking back, I'll share a little bit about, sort of like how my perspective has changed over the years. Because since then, I had another 5 rear enders, literally, pretty much like I'd say like I think I had two within 1 year. So before my second rear ender got closed, I got rear-ended again by, unfortunately, this woman who bent over to pick up her cell phone and profusely apologized for her neglect. And again, what can I say? You know, I guess she didn't mean to, but at the time, it didn't take away from my having to work on the injuries. And if anybody has ever experienced or known anybody who has been in a car accident, it is a lot of work trying to get back to your life as you knew it. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of sleepless nights due to the aches and pains. And for me, unfortunately, they would escalate to dizziness, and some of those episodes that I had experienced in my teenage years due to my chronic pain actually had resurfaced. I would have migraines. I would have blurriness in my eyes. I wouldn't be able to think and focus clearly. And a lot of the new research has uncovered that the post-concussive syndromes would have actually been something that I would suffer from as well. So that was the third rear ender that I had. And then unfortunately had 1, 2, 3 more rear enders. And it took me probably a good 7 years of having to recover from all these rear enders before the final big T-bone, unfortunately, that I had. And that actually happened now about, I would say, because it is like April now. So the T-bone, the really big hit was actually the T-bone. And the T-bone took me the longest to recover from because it was a full-on, the other driver was coming on full speed, ran the red light. I was in the left turning lane, waiting to make my left turns. And as I was making the left turn on at the light, she had what I would now, and sort of thinking back, perhaps she had slammed on the gas rather than the brakes. So, I mean, that's what I told myself to actually make myself sort of forgive and feel a little better about, the situation, because I was out for about 3 weeks. Now, the good news is I didn't suffer any physical broken bones or any disfigurement. I was very, very lucky. I was in my parents' vehicle, driving their vehicle at the time, and it is a German vehicle, very, very sturdy. Thank you to the German vehicle makers because, the steel is a lot, the framework a lot harder and definitely a lot more resilient to crashing. And so I actually say quite often that I owe my life to that car, which was totaled during that T-bone incident. But it definitely saved my life. And for that, I am very grateful. And so how does perspective kind of work itself into this situation? The interesting thing is that whenever I have a client or a patient who has had a car accident happen, whether it's a small collision or a really major collision, and I have seen some pretty bad disfigurements and broken bones, it's been very helpful for me to have had walk through these 7 car accidents, and it helps me relate to what are some of the things that they're currently experiencing, or the fact that I could actually help them look ahead as to what might be coming down the pipeline in terms of, how long they might have to take for recovery. And so it's been really interesting that I can actually see that this was a learning experience for me. Obviously, I do not ever wish any car accidents on anybody, let alone 7 of them. But because I'd had the experience of the rear enders and actually to add that the T-bone to my list, it's really also helped me understand, sort of the physics behind, the types of injuries that could occur to the body because of that. Because I am one of those people who just loves to analyze. I will go and find the ins and outs of what was happening to me and my body at the time after the collisions. And so I would actually go and look at the physics of the different angles of impact and sort of what are the structures in my anatomy that could have been affected. And in turn, I actually learned a lot about how different types of impact will sort of cause a lot of extra injuries that might not be seen from the surface. So in that sense, I've actually come to peace, 4 years later. The whole decade of car accidents has really brought me to a different sense of knowledge and at a different level of being able to interpret that. So I'd say definitely that has given me a different perspective on having suffered through those car accidents. I mean, probably to the point where I could say, you know what, it was perhaps a little bit of a blessing in disguise. I tend to, like to see sort of the positive in whatever it is that happens in my life. So, I definitely look at life through a very new, different way. The lens that I come from, is a little bit more of, okay, well, what can I learn from this? And, try to give a little bit of, more forgiveness, for what's happened. So that is definitely something that has helped me, in terms of being able to relate to other people that might be suffering from something like that. So here's the thing. Perhaps when that big T-bone collision hit me, perhaps there was a little miracle that was hidden in between, and I often go back and I think about that and I'm like, wow, I could have died in that car accident, but I didn't. And what are the chances? I could have taken our other car that day, but I happened to be driving my parents' German Hunka Chunka tank. So I kind of see that as a little miracle in itself because I walked away without a broken bone in my body. I mean, the car was completely totaled. And so the little miracles that made me kind of think about, sort of what are little miracles in our lives that we are missing on a day-to-day basis. And it is something that I've kind of like toyed around with a little bit and thought, aren't the little miracles that we're missing, the small moments in our lives that could later become something that we will actually think back and say, wow, that was actually a pretty magical moment. And it was almost a little bit hard to believe that I was in that situation and being able to be completely A-okay. I mean, obviously I suffered some side effects, but all in all, it was probably a blessing that I was able to walk out of that incident pretty unharmed, I would say. So that to me is a little miracle. Now, what are some of the little miracles in your life? And if you choose to kind of see the little special magical moments in your lives, such as, the other day I was just sitting there with my little guy Ori, and he said to me, "Mommy, you're an amazing mommy." And that literally brought me to tears. I was overwhelmed. I thought, wow, what prompted him to say that? And